welcome to the OnStage Colorado podcast. I'm Alex Miller, and I'm joined here by Toni Tresca. Hey, Toni.
Hey, Alex. It's good to be back with you here. We're both back home after our trip to Steamboat Springs this weekend.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec. So this is one of our highly anticipated bonus episodes in between our longer ones that can run, over an hour with the headliners and the interviews. But we do have an interview in this episode. Later on, I did with two of the winners of this year's Bobby G Awards, it's kind of the Toni Awards of Colorado High School Theater. So I had a great time talking to Grayson Graham and Hannah Schnorr, both of whom are now going on to New York City. I think this week they'll be. I think they were going to be there, like doing workshops and stuff. And then on Monday, June 23rd, at these National Jimmy Awards, hosted by Josh Groban, there's going to be a ceremony and there's some performance and all kinds of stuff involved. So stick around for that one. It's a fun conversation with some up and coming Colorado theater artists. So yeah,
that sounds like it's going to be a cool conversation, and we'll have to check in with both of them after the Jimmies, see how that experience was for them.
Yeah. So what else are we talking about this week, Toni?
Well, we are talking about our aforementioned trip to Steamboat Springs, in which we, in addition to taking in some of the nature and we went on a very lovely hike. We saw this beautiful waterfall out there, but that was not the main reason we went. We went for the 27th annual Colorado New Play Summit, which took place June 13th and 14th.
Yeah, we were there, and it was cool. It was fun to take a little theater trip with you. I don't think we'd ever done that before, and so we stayed with a friend of mine, an old theater buddy of mine, and we got to see these 4 readings, and we did a little bit of a hike up to Fish Creek Falls there in Steamboat, and hung out by the Yampa River, which is so the event took place at the was it Bud Werner Library there, right on the banks of the Yampa River, and so it was fun just hanging out, watching all the activity, the kids and rafters and kayaks and kids hanging out and jumping in and all that. So that was,
and you could always tell when you were approaching the performance venue, that library, because since it was a hot springs, it smelled strongly of sulfur. So you could smell it when you entered. And so this event is not to be confused with the Denver Center Theater Company's Colorado New Play Summit. This one is it's pretty different. Yeah.
So festival it's not an association with a particular theater, and the plays that we hear, and we hear that these plays at this festival can land on Broadway and other regional theater companies and do pretty well.
That's right. The site claims that 75% of the plays chosen move on to those regional festivals or New York City stages. And the festival's been called one of the top festivals in North America, a claim which they have some more credence as of recently, because they just won big at the Toni Awards, or rather one of the plays that they backed early on, Purpose, which originally premiered in a reading in this festival, went on to win the top prize at the Tonys for the plays, Best New Play. So that's quite a feather in the cap.
Yeah.
And I'll also say this festival partners with theater companies specifically. So they recruit theater companies around the world who have writers. And so there's kind of a vested interest from those theater companies in eventually staging a production. So for instance, one of the shows that we'll talk about, Creature Feature, was brought by the Roundabout Theater in New York City. So I would not be shocked if in a little bit we hear an announcement that Roundabout is staging a full production of Creature Feature.
Yeah. I think if your play is at this one, you got a pretty good chance of getting a full production somewhere, probably with the theater company you're already associated with. So this year they had the usual 4 plays presented in readings with a bunch of great casts, I must say. But before we get into them, I would just note that since these are works in progress, just like the New Play Summit at the Denver Center, they ask that we don't review them, but that won't stop us from talking about them in general terms, right?
That's right, and hopefully the new play festival won't send any goons around to torture us if we step over a line or anything like that.
Yeah. I hear they have a team of real bruisers to enforce those rules. So when we started off day one, there was kind of a meet the playwrights kind of thing that was pretty informal. I don't know that we learned a whole bunch there, but a little bit of preview of the shows and kind of their thoughts on the process.
I would say the only playwright who was revealing was, interestingly, Lauren Gunderson, who is she's the playwright, who has the most heat coming into the festival. She's one of the country's most produced playwrights regularly. And she actually shared that she made a massive 4.5-page cut to the final part of her script that she said really kind of cleaned that up and clarified some action there, which I thought was pretty interesting and quite revealing.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in just a bit. So starting off on day one, we saw this reading of a play by Noah Diaz, who's associated with New York's Roundabout Theater, as you were saying, creature feature. And this was, many people will know this actor that was in it, Brian Landis Filkins, was one of the readers, and he was great. And then it was it's a play. I have to say that I think we both had a lot of fairly confident that this one will go on to have a long life. Perhaps it was a really, really fun show. It was told from the point of view of an 11-year-old girl, played by a 70 or 80-year-old woman named Susan, an actor named Susan Blomert, because it's a memory play where she's looking back on these events of her mother, who was kind of an Elvira character on a TV show during the 80s, and her dad was was basically the producer. And it was all about this family tension, and when what was her name, Morgana.
Morgana.
Yeah,
but her real name was Maggie.
Right. Yeah, she decides she's just had enough after 10 years and quits, and it just throws the whole family into hysterics, along with the head of the head of the studio, who was played by BLF, and so the interesting thing was that they were telling us that some of these characters, including that producer and a few others, will actually be dressed as monsters, because this whole thing is about these monsters and creature feature type things, and we weren't really curious about how that might look, if that's actually what they do with it. But it was fun. They had pictures of some of the monsters, like the creature from the Black Lagoon and a wolf man and a few others there, to kind of give us remind us what they might look like, and if it's a full production.
Definitely. Yeah, as you mentioned up at the top, would be curious to see what this looks like in a fully staged production someday. This was a really fun reading with really cool performances by strong crop of actors.
Yeah. And very funny too. Next one we saw is a bit more serious, but still had a few laughs. It was called Dawn by Thuy T. Pham, a Cambodian playwright. So this was associated with the Everyman Theater in Baltimore, D.C. area. So this one was about some Cambodian women, a mother and a daughter, revisiting the past in a fraught drama. There was some stuff, going back to the Vietnam War, and some pretty heavy family stuff.
Definitely a lot more serious than the previous play. And yeah, it was definitely somebody who's kind of working out of a very personal experience. Felt a little rough around the edges to me, but it was pretty solid reading nevertheless.
Yep. So what about day two?
Day two. So this one interesting quirk of the festival is we had the introduction with all the playwrights, and then 2 readings pretty much back to back on Friday night. And then there is a massive break all day Saturday until about 4 p.m., which you and I, we filled with a hike, and we took over the streets of Steamboat along with the other tourists there.
Oh my God! All the tourists in the world were in Steamboat that weekend.
It was a lovely weekend. So when we ventured into the farmers market, which was a bad idea because it was just blocks and blocks of packed streets and people and yelling vendors. But I mean, good for them. Glad to see it, but then we were doing that until 4 p.m. On Saturday, when we took in Vienna by Carrie Perloff. This is a story about 3 generations of women. The play is being brought by 6 Point Theater in St. Paul, Minnesota. And if the name Carrie Perloff sounds familiar to any Colorado folks, that is because Carrie had a play at the New Play Summit. That's the one by the Denver Center this past year, If God Were Blue. And that was a piece about the kind of Renaissance art world and this kind of battle between artists at that time. This play is very different. It feels more kind of like, if anybody's seen The White Lotus season 2, the 3 generations of Italian men kind of going to Italy. This is similar in that it's 3 generations of Jewish women who travel to Vienna when this grandmother is there to get an award. I thought it was very funny, very emotionally moving. The relationships between the 3 women were crystal clear, and you really understood where all of these women were coming from.
Yep. Yeah. And also great performances also by, I think they actually were actors from Minnesota that came out to do this one. And then what was the last one we saw? This one you mentioned earlier.
Final play by Lauren Gunderson. This is Muse of Fire. It is a 2-hander from North Light Theater in Skokie, Illinois. This is just right in the Chicago area. And it featured Lauren Gunderson herself playing Anne Hathaway, who is the wife of William Shakespeare, who was played by Casey Murphy in this reading. And it's kind of this discussion about their relationship or lack thereof, because Will Shakespeare famously kind of abandoned Anne back in Stratford-upon-Avon to go into London, produce plays and work on his stuff while leaving her alone with the children. And the relationship, particularly in this play, gets extra strained after their son Hamnet dies, we learned. And so this play is set around the time when Will is writing The Tempest, his final play, and they're also kind of unpacking these pieces and seeing if they can learn to forgive each other.
Right. Yeah. And, Lauren Gunderson's a damn good actor, and I really enjoyed her performance. And it was compared to a lot of readings, they were very on their feet and, kind of they were moving the music stands where they had their scripts around quite a bit. And it was really, really active. And Casey Murphy as well was fantastic too. It was interesting. It reminded me a little bit of Anne Juliet, which I just saw, which was about, Will Shakespeare and Anne Hathaway battling over a play, in that case, Romeo and Juliet, but very different because A, it wasn't a musical, and B, it was just, all kinds of different things going on, but also very funny. And I think we could see the change that she had made at the end, at least as far as we could tell, seemed like it was a pretty good move. And this one was like, there's a rumor that it might be coming here to Colorado.
That's just a rumor, though. We can't say anything else about that, Alex.
All right. Well, remains to be seen, but I'm sure it'll make it out there at some point. So hopefully we'll see it. So we were a little surprised, but like compared to the Denver Center Theater Company's event where there's dinners and and lunches, and there's a lot of opportunity for mingling with the playwrights and the actors, there really wasn't any of that. So it would have been cool if there'd been like something.
Yeah, could have maybe done like a picnic or a barbecue on Saturday, or as local theater company just did with their local lab, they actually did a hike on one of the days, or a coffee shop meetup. So any of those ideas could have been fun, so that we could have had a bit of a chance to talk with the playwrights and the actors, as well as the people who actually were producing the festival. It would have been nice to just have a moment to chat with them a little bit about the work that they put into this.
Yeah. Well, they've been doing it for 27 years. I guess they know what they're doing, but it definitely left us free to do whatever you wanted on Saturday. So maybe we'll make an annual journey out of it. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a really polished event that showcased 4 plays that you could really imagine having a life outside of this festival, which is ultimately one of the big points of doing these festivals in the first place, is as an incubator for future production. So, another one that I would be another kind of a playfest that I'd be curious to get to that neither of us have so far is the Durango Play Festival, which is doing its 7th annual readings June 24th through the 29th. So that's coming up just this upcoming week. So haven't been there, won't be able to make it out there this time, but if there are any other new play enthusiasts, just wanted to flag that for you while there's still some time.
Colorado, a hotbed of new play activity.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely true.
Yeah. The OnStage Colorado podcast is sponsored by Town Hall Arts Center in Littleton, presenting the musical On Your Feet, May 23rd through June 22nd. It's the story of Gloria and OnStage Colorado is brought to you in part by Miners Alley Performing Center, whose production of Ring of Fire runs May 9th through June 29th. Ring of Fire is a high-energy jukebox musical that brings the legendary songs of Johnny Cash on stage, weaving his iconic hits into a story of love, resilience, and the American spirit. Tickets at minersalley.com. Also supporting OnStage Colorado is Rocky Mountain Repertory Theater in Grand Lake. Their 2025 summer season runs from June 6th through September 5th and includes Disney's Frozen, Guys and Dolls, Footloose, and Nonsense. Find tickets at rockymountainrep.com. OnStage Colorado is brought to you by Colorado Candlelight, featuring Anastasia through August 31st. This dazzling show transports its audience from the twilight of the Russian Empire to the euphoria of Paris in the 1920s as a brave young woman sets out to discover the mystery of her past. Tickets at coloradocandlelight.com. And we're supported by Theater Silco in Silverthorne, featuring Steel Magnolias June 20th through July 13th. It's a classic, heartwarming drama that's also got a lot of laughs as a hodgepodge of women form friendships as strong as steel, which they are forced to lean on when tragedy strikes. Tickets at thesilco.org. So, all right, well, moving on. One of the big news items from the past week was the Henry Awards came out. So we had just gotten the list of nominees when we were recording last week's episode, so we should definitely dive in a little bit deeper. So this is, of course, the annual theater awards hosted by the Colorado Theater Guild. And they have a team of just lots of volunteer judges who get out to as many places as they can all around the state. So what's your initial takeaway, Toni? Is anyone furious about anything, as so is often the case with the Henrys?
Is anyone furious, Alex? What a naive question. Of course, it's an award show. Of course, people have big opinions about it, but I think outside of some of the Facebook comments, I think if you really kind of dig into the nominations themselves, it's a pretty widespread of a lot of different groups. I mean, sure, the Denver Center does dominate, as kind of per usual with these awards. They got 29 different nominations. But there was also some surprises, like Rocky Mountain Rep got 23. So some representation from the mountain towns out there. Colorado Springs also was pretty well represented throughout the nominations. Some nods up north as well. So I mean, there were definitely some people who voiced some frustrations that certain productions didn't get nominated. I think in particular the one that I'm most inclined to agree with is like the Town Halls, just pretty much shut out aside from the nomination for the solo play that they received. Their production of Urinetown was outstanding. I know you really enjoyed their Jersey Boys, which I didn't get to see. But so that company produces really high-end work in that space, and there was a lot of really impressive options for them to choose from. So for them to for the judges to not really bite at those felt like a little bit of an oversight. But I think it's really hard also when talking about these awards because we haven't seen everything, and we all saw different productions on different versions of the shows on the nights that we were there. And unless you've seen every single show and every single person who is nominated, it is really tricky to kind of weigh in. And your kind of gut reaction is to just be like, why didn't my favorite get nominated? But you kind of have to think Colorado's a pretty big state. There's a lot of different regions who are represented in these awards.
Yeah, there's a million variables that go into it. You can't always get a Henry judge to every show you want them to be at. And you've got all kinds of different, personalities doing it. But yeah, the town hall thing was definitely stood out. But it's great to see, Rocky Mountain Rep, and also some others like Firehouse Theater got 11, which is great because I think they've been doing a lot of great work for, for a small theater. And also Performance Now had 14. So they're, that seems like the musicals seem to do pretty well overall. So real quick, the Outstanding Production of a Play nominations were Dial M for Murder at the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center, Downstate at Curious Theater Company, I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter at the DCPA Theater Company, National Bohemians for Miners Alley, The Reservoir at DCPA Theater Company. And then do you want to do the musicals?
Sure. So Outstanding Production of a Musical, the nominees are A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder at the Arvada Center for the Arts and Humanities, Waitress, also at the Arvada Center, Little Shop of Horrors by the DCPA Theater Company, Come From Away by Rocky Mountain Repertory Theater, and The Music Man, also by Rocky Mountain Repertory Theater.
Yep. And, the top shows by nominations, Little Shop of Horrors, which we both adored. It was a fantastic production. Music Man at Rocky Mountain Rep. Waitress at the Arvada Center, which is another one with 10 nominations. That was just a complete banger. Come From Away with 8, A Gentleman's Guide at the Arvada Center with 7, which was also a really great show. A couple of cabarets, one from Breckenridge Backstage, another Platte Valley had a few, and then a couple in a Downstate, Curious, and then Eyes Up, Mouth Agape from Buntport, which was absolutely hilarious, crazy ass show that Buntport did. One of their best in years, in my opinion, got 6. And then also National Bohemians, which was also a really strong new play from Luc Sorge at the Miners Alley Performing Center. So well-deserved there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was really happy I think there were a lot of really good shows that got nominated this year. Again, as I mentioned, since I haven't seen all 170 different shows that were submitted, it is kind of hard to weigh in, particularly on the ones that I haven't seen. But I did want to mention one other thing before we move on from our Henry's discussion. The big change, the thing that got a lot of people chattering, particularly online, was the shift this year away from gendered categories. So instead of Best Actor, Best Actress, they've now just got Outstanding Performer in a Play, for instance, Tier 1 and Tier 2. And those tiers are divided by budget categories, with the larger theaters being Tier 1, smaller companies being Tier 2. That got a lot of chatter from folks in the company, from folks out in the theater world. What do you think about that, Alex? We talked briefly about it last week.
Yeah. Well, of course, our awards, the Oscars that we do, we made that decision when we put ours together. Why differentiate? Just have one actor category. But we were also talking a little bit about, there is the chance that a particular category could have just 2 men or just 2 women, and is that going to turn people off or whatever? But but they also added there's a couple more opportunities to win, right?
Yeah, it does seem like there's more opportunities to be nominated. There's a lot more nominees in here. I think that's always good, more opportunities for showcases. But it's interesting in some of these categories. You see, it's a little bit like what happens at the Emmy Awards, which is the television awards over there, where if you have a show that has an ensemble cast, you just see a lot of people sweeping certain categories. Like, for instance, Little Shop of Horrors had a bunch of different nominees in supporting actor. Same with like the Hot Wing King as well. So it's interesting to notice. I think that can also tell you something about where the judges' minds are at as well, since, okay, these shows have a swelling of support. So just something interesting to keep in mind if you're at home trying to predict the Henry Awards.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the bottom line is it's great that the Colorado Theater Guild is putting the effort into doing these. It's not always going to be perfect. You can't get, absolutely every show covered, and it's a scoring system. It's so you never know how the numbers are going to add up once all the ballots are turned in. So but anyway, so the Henry Awards will be held on July 28th at the Lone Tree Arts Center, and of course, you can get tickets to go see it if you want to do it. Last year, they made a real effort to trim it down, lean it down to be really much more efficient time wise, and I think we were in and out of there in like 2 hours last year, right?
That's right. It was The show last year really ran smoothly. There were some great musical performances, including by the folks who were nominated at who won at the Bobby G Awards, excuse me. And it was a really fun show, and it's a fundraiser for the Colorado Theater Guild, and the after party afterwards is just it's a who's who of the theater community. So if you just want to go see all your theater friends or do some networking out there, that after party is the place to be.
Absolutely.
But that is it for the Henrys for now. We are going to toss it to Alex's interview with those amazing young theater artists from this year's Bobby G Awards.
OnStage Colorado is brought to you by the Aurora Fox, whose production of Little Miss Sunshine runs June 6th through 29th. It's a heartwarming and hilarious musical adaptation of the beloved Academy Award-winning film. Little Miss Sunshine celebrates the power of love, determination, and the joy of following your dreams, no matter the obstacles. Tickets at aurorafoxartscenter.org. Also supporting OnStage Colorado is the Colorado Shakespeare Festival, presenting The Tempest June 7th through August 10th and Richard II July 5th through August 10th. Shows take place in the Row Green Theater on the campus of the University of Colorado Boulder. Tickets at cupresents.org. We're also supported by the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, whose new season starts in August and includes Cry It Out, Elizabeth I in Her Own Words, The Thin Place, Every Brilliant Thing, Brooklyn Laundry, and Mary Jane, as well as Mad Librarians for the kids. Get tickets at betc.org. All right, we are joined now by two incredible young performers who are making Colorado proud on the national stage. Welcome to the podcast, Grayson Graham and Hannah Schnorr. Hey. Okay, so you both recently took home top honors at the 2025 Bobby G Awards, which is Colorado's premier high school musical theater competition. You've won outstanding performances in a leading role. But your story doesn't end there. They're both going to be heading to Broadway to represent the entire state of Colorado at the Jimmy Awards, which is the National High School Musical Theater Championships. And you'll be performing at the legendary Minskoff Theater on June 23rd. So, wow, super cool to go from Colorado High School to the bright lights at Times Square. I just wanted to dive a little bit into your journey, your passion for musical theater, and what it means to carry the Colorado banner all the way to Broadway. So welcome to the show. Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, tell us about the moment your name was called as outstanding performance in a lead role at the Bobby G Awards. What was going through your mind?
It was kind of surreal, honestly. Like, it was hard to believe. Like, I saw my name up on like the little screen, and I was like, what? So I sat there for a second just to like make sure that was happening. But crazy.
So they called Hannah's name first, and I didn't even hear mine. And I was so like, I just didn't want to get my hopes up. So I put my head in like my hands. I like just wasn't looking, and I like closed my eyes, and I heard Hannah's name, and I didn't hear mine. And then my friend next to me was like smacking my arm. He was like, "Grayson, look!" And I looked up, and my name was on this screen. And I just like shot out of my chair, and I just stared at my friend. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, my name's on the screen. What now?" And then you're like standing in the aisle, and you're like, "Come on." And I'm just like shell shocked. Like it was so unreal. And it was just that walk to the stage, and it's like I get to read the speech I wrote, like just all the like the little like things like that was like it was so amazing.
Great. So, Grayson, you are at Lutheran High School in Parker, and are you a rising senior or junior?
I'm a junior. I'm going into my senior year now.
Okay. And Hannah, you graduated from Fossil Ridge in Fort Collins, and you're heading to NYU's Tisch School in the fall. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it hard to get into Tisch?
Yeah. The audition was really fun, but it was scary. The different thing about Tisch is it's 50% academic, 50% like artistic review. So it kind of just, if you get a no from one or the other, you're just not in. So I'm just glad to be going there. I think I'm going to have a really fun time.
That's great. Yeah, that's a really cool part of New York City too, down there. That'll be awesome. Hannah, I don't know what that noise is. Can you hear that?
Sorry, I'm trying to shut up everything that has sound on it. There we go.
Okay. Well, Hannah, so your production was Carrie, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you play Carrie?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so you got the blood spilled all over you.
Oh, yeah.
So, I've never seen that musical. And I was a little surprised that a high school would do that one since it's kind of violent. So, what was it like performing that show at your high school?
I love that show. It's been my favorite show since 7th grade, actually. Mm-hmm. And our admin really worked with us, and my director and our choreographer and our music director and our tech director all came together, and they made like this presentation for our admin on why we wanted to do this show and why it's important right now, because we more so focused on how bullying looks today, because a lot of the show is really focused on the bullying aspect. Sure. So we integrated social media. So like we had live streaming happening during the show. So like during the period scene when Carrie is getting bullied, my back was to the audience, but someone on their phone was live streaming like what it looked like to look down on me. And then that was put on a projection behind the set, basically.
Interesting.
So we really wanted to go with the idea of what does it cost to be kind, which is a lyric and like a line in the show. And that was like our main message of like how every kid needs a safe space, and whether that's at school or at home, and how Carrie didn't have one, and she didn't even have one in a person, and how that affects people.
Right. Yeah. That certainly is very, bullying has been going on forever. It seems like it's become, more in the spotlight and more, or less tolerated. I'd like to say, hopefully, but Carrie was certainly one of the early films that really pointed that out. So, Grayson, what was the show you guys did at Lutheran that you brought to the Bobby G's?
Yeah, we just had a production of Newsies.
Okay. Yeah. Great. And who were you in that?
I was Jack Kelly.
Oh, okay. That's a fun role. Did you enjoy playing that kind of rapscallion kind of character?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've always played the more like, I'm usually a shyer like character. So it was really cool to have like, everyone was like, Grayson's Jack Kelly? Like he's the confident ringleader. And I was like, I can do it. I got this. So that was really exciting. Yeah.
That's great. So, so you guys are going to get to know each other really well, but you probably didn't know each other until you met at the Bobby G's. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, it's gonna be a lot of fun going to New York. And do you have to prepare anything in advance of going to the Jimmy's?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Okay. Are you going to be doing like an audition kind of thing, or?
Yeah. So we have 2 songs from our show that we bring with us, and then we have to pick 4 others from a list. And the third day in, they have us audition.
Yeah.
And after that, it's down to the top 40, and then they're auditioned again for the top 8. And then the winners are actually chosen during the awards ceremony.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to ask you, one of the things that we talk a lot about on the OnStage Colorado podcast is a problem that theaters have where not a lot of young people are going to theater. They're more likely to, or maybe it's a stereotype, but look at stuff on their phones or whatever. And it's been going on for a while. But what do you say to, I don't know, your generation? Do you have any hope that people are going to, younger people are going to start getting more interested in theater, or what does theater have to say to, to your generation?
I feel like, yeah, with like the phones thing, or like just like, I feel like everyone's really in their own bubble. And what's cool about theater is it shares stories of experiences you might not even have thought about before. And it really it makes you think, and it's just cool to experience. I feel like there's times in my life where I don't get to see a lot of theater. And then when I go to see a show, it's like, oh yes, that was really fun. I missed that, and that's what I would say, I think, is just experiencing other stories, and it really opens your mind to other people's experiences.
And I think, a lot of people dog on jukebox musicals, or movies made into musicals like Mean Girls or something, but I do think that is what's getting our younger generation into musicals, because
Sure.
it's, oh, I know that song, or, oh, I've seen that movie. Like, oh, I want to see that on stage. So I think it's like a gateway into being like, wait, that was really cool. I'd love to see something else. And it kind of builds from there. And then I think that's kind of what's getting the younger generation like started, is with material that they know, and then you kind of branch off into the original works.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of times people just have not been exposed to theater. When you take them to something for the first time, they're like, "Whoa, this is really cool!" People are right there live on stage. So both of you performed in the closing medley with the past winners and other nominees at the Bobby G Awards. What was that collaborative moment like, and how does it feel to be a legacy of the Bobby G Award winners? We'll start with you, Hannah.
It was just so much fun. I feel like every year everyone's just so unique, and seeing all of these different characters and shows and people come together, it's just awesome. And the fact that we do have the alumni that come back, and it's like a little callback for people who like watch the videos on YouTube or something. It's like, oh, I've seen them before. And yeah, I'm just excited to be a part of it, honestly.
Uh-huh.
I had a great time. When I found out that there was dancing, I was kind of like, there's dancing. Not like, I'm not big on that, but I had so much fun, and everyone was so kind and encouraging. And I had a very special like chance to be there with my co-star, Caden Deagle. We were both nominated. And that experience with him was just amazing that we got to share. And I loved making all my new friends that I hope to keep in touch with. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Grayson, what advice would you give to younger students who are just maybe thinking about trying out for the school musical? What would you want them to know about what that's like, and how it can help them?
I would say, I feel like I do this a lot. It's really easy to compare yourself to everyone else and like who's auditioning. Just be like, oh, they're a better singer, they're a better actor. And I think it's important to remember that everyone can bring something different to any role. Even if you feel like that role doesn't suit you. Like I had that mindset with Jack Kelly, where I was like, I'm always the shy, like awkward, and I want this role that's like tough and outgoing. So that's like the biggest thing I would say is like, don't put yourself in a box and recognize your own strengths.
I'd say if you're contemplating like doing a musical or a play, do it. Whether that's on stage, whether that's backstage, do it. Because the community that you have with theater is unlike any other activity or sport, because you spend so many hours, and more hours than I think people realize, together. And like acting itself is very vulnerable. Like sharing stories is very vulnerable. So you get to know each other on that level. And so I think theater is a great thing for people to join, because it just creates these like lifelong bonds that you can't really get anywhere else. So I say do it, because it's just fun. And
Absolutely. So Hannah, obviously you've kind of you're pursuing a path towards perhaps being a professional actor since you're off to the races going to NYU. So that's a great launch point. What about you, Grayson? Is that something that you think, that having gone through this experience younger, earlier in your career, I guess you could say, is this made you think that you want to head in that direction as well?
Yeah. So since I was little, I've always wanted to be in like movies. That was always my thing. Like, I just want to be an actor when I grow up. And then as I reached high school, I started to like almost like try to like accept that that's not realistic. And I think this whole experience has really it's really cool to have a lot of outward validation and recognition, where it's like, maybe I do have a shot on these kinds of things. I have a huge passion for music. I'm in a band. I like playing piano and singing. So honestly, I'm just in pursuit of any performance. And I thank gosh I have like one more year to like think things through before I like try out for colleges and stuff like that. But this experience has definitely changed that course a little bit, for sure. A lot of it.
You must be already looking at schools if you're a rising senior. Do you have any in mind?
I'm definitely looking at NYU now. I'm checking out. There's a lot of music schools.
That is like, man, I'm glad my dog can't hear that. She'd be going nuts. So, all right. So yeah, NYU. Yeah, that'd be a good one.
I'm looking at through like music schools like Southern California, Belmont, and I've heard that Baylor has a good program. Just looking kind of all over. I want to explore America a bit, just see like where would I like to stay, what program suits me the best. That's the whole college deal there. Yeah.
All right. Well, all right, Grayson Graham and Hannah Schnorr, congratulations on your wins at the 2025 Bobby G Awards and your, getting to go to New York City. It sounds like an amazing experience, and I wish you the best. Break legs all around out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
All right, that is it for the podcast this week. Thank you for doing that interview with the Bobby G Award winners. That was a great conversation, Alex.
Yeah, it was fun because, we don't cover high school musicals, which is not to say there isn't a lot of great work going on there. It's just too damn many of them. It's just impossible for us to cover. So, but that was great to talk to them, and especially talking to, the young actors who's heading off to the Tisch School at NYU. That is super exciting.
Totally. So if people are still hungry for some more theater content, what can people check out on OnStageColorado.com right now? And what's coming soon for folks?
Yeah, well, your review of The Tempest is up there, which is such an absolutely fantastic take, I must tell you. It was a very well done review, something I know you spent a lot of time on. And on the kind of the other end is Four Old Broads on the High Seas from our reviewer April Tuck at Funky Little Theater Company down in the Springs.
It's interesting. 2 aquatic-themed reviews up on the site at once, Alex.
Yes, that's right. That's about all they have in common. So, we'll have some other shows. This week was a little off just because we were out of town, but we'll have all kinds of stuff coming up on the site as the summer season continues to heat up.
Totally. And if you want to stay up to date on what's going on in theaters and comedy venues across the state, subscribe to the OnStage Colorado newsletter, which comes out pretty much every Thursday.
Yep. And next week for a full episode, we have no idea what we're talking about yet, but we'll definitely come up with something.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, that's all for this week. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca, and we'll see you at the show.